Marhaban, ahlan wa sahlan bikum. Today's video was strongly requested by one of my commenters, and I also put the vote out to you guys as well, and everyone was really into this idea. I hope it puts a lot of pressure on me. I hope that it lives up to your expectations. So a little while ago I did a video about foreign women marrying Jordanian men and some of the issues that they tend to come across, which tend to be quite typical problems. And I wanted to kind of counter that because I felt like maybe it felt a bit unfair to Jordanian men. It wasn't meant to. But I also wanted to put out there some other issues from a man's perspective, to know some of the things that are difficult with marrying a foreign woman and having her live in your country. You know, you enter into a marriage in the West knowing that divorce rate is like 50%. Whereas when you enter into a relationship, into a marriage with somebody... Can you hear that wind? My windows are shut. So when you get married to someone who's from a completely different country, your stakes are so much higher. If you get divorced, it's so much more complicated. So I feel like it's important to go into these relationships with your eyes wide open and to know the common issues that people have. However silly they may be, and these things might actually be really trivial, it's just nice to know that it's not just the women. We always focus on the women and how it's hard on the women to move away from home and things. It's also hard on the men. So let's get started. And before I get started, please like and subscribe so I can continue making this content. The first thing that I want to talk about is your husband will end up being a buffer between his family and you all the time, which is very tiring. And I mean that in terms of he has to understand and explain your culture and where you're coming from to his family, and then do the same in reverse. And I see this as being a problem when foreign women refuse to do certain things, refuse to behave in an Arab way, or won't make allowances for certain things. Maybe they don't want to go to the parties and the weddings, maybe they don't want to serve their guests in an Arab way, maybe they object to certain customs and things like that. And it always falls on the husband's shoulders to mitigate those problems. And of course, you have that with any relationship. But I feel like it's a lot stronger and it's a lot more in your face between these relationships. This third one might seem a bit silly, but I feel like it can be a little bit significant sometimes. It's when you're refusing to cook food from your husband's culture and food that he really loves. It's probably more relevant if he's living outside of his country. But I know that this comes up a lot, and a lot of foreign women just refuse outright to cook Arabic food. They don't like it, or they find it complicated, or they just never learnt. Now this isn't going to bother everybody, of course not, and some men are not going to care, but I feel like a lot of men do care quite a lot about that. And there's definitely some kind of sense of pride if your wife can cook mansaf, or she can cook a big meal and have guests over and things like that, cook a big Arabic meal. And I think it's important to remember always how much a part of our identities and our sense of comfort and things that food is. And for me personally, it was a really good bonding method for me and my mother-in-law, because I don't speak Arabic and she doesn't speak English. So we really kind of bonded over food and learning how to make food, and I learned some Arabic along the way. So maybe that's a silly one, maybe it's not, I don't know. Fourth one touches on feminism. This is going to come up over and over again if you are from a Western country like England or America or Germany or somewhere like that. This tends to be problematic because you have grown up hearing that men should take an active role in the house and they should be domesticated, and that they should do chores just the same, and you should share all the chores. You know, he should be good at cooking and he should do his share of cooking, and that he should clean the house and he should be able to work an iron or work a hoover and all of these things. And that is drilled into us from an early age. And then you come here and it's totally different. And that is like, it's really tough. To get your head around that when a man is in a house, it's a very masculine culture, and it is very difficult sometimes, often, for foreign women to get their heads around that and get used to that. And I think it really depends on the couple. But this video isn't about how difficult it is on women, this is about men. We know that it's tough for women. How is it tough for men? So it's tough for men because they have been taught the complete opposite since they were born, that it is in some way belittling or emasculating for him to do any domestic work or anything that is considered the woman's job in the traditional sense, traditional in England as well. So that can be really difficult when your wife is telling you one thing, you need to do this and you need to do that, and your mother is telling you something different, or your culture is telling you something different. And you have to, again, mitigate between the two cultures and find your place. And as well, you know, if you compromise in a way that you start doing the cleaning and you start taking a more active role in and domesticating and stuff, it's difficult for a man to change everything, or for anyone to change their culture suddenly overnight. It's not going to happen that quickly. The next one is you have to deal with your foreign wife travelling for extended periods of time. So what tends to happen is that foreigners here, the wives and the kids, tends not to be the husband as well because he's got to work, the wives and the kids will go back to her country for the whole summer or for the whole winter. And it could be, you know, it's often not just 3 or 4 weeks, it's often like 2 months or something like that. And that's really difficult. It's very challenging for your entire home life and your whole relationship to be saying goodbye all the time. And that's difficult, very difficult on the man, because he's the one who's being left behind at the end of the day. The next one is particularly relevant if you, the wife, are a stay-at-home wife and your husband is working and you don't speak the language, and bureaucratic things need to be done. At the end of the day, your husband is your guardian in some way. So as well, that adds another problem, that if you need anything done, you need to go and sort out your iqama or anything like that, often you need your husband to do it, or your husband just has to do it all for you, and you just sit at home and your husband does all the bureaucratic stuff by himself. And usually the wife would step in and she would be going and doing this bureaucratic stuff. Not always. Some women go out and do it themselves even if they don't speak Arabic, and some women are more useful than I am even if they don't speak Arabic, but this has just been my experience personally. And also, you know, you've got so many more responsibilities. You are not just becoming someone's husband, you are becoming their father, their mother, their brother, their best friend, their entire support network in one person. You know, you're their guardian and responsible for them legally and in every aspect. And it's really tiring, and it's a really big job to take on. So don't forget that. The next one, again, it depends on the person, it depends on the relationship, but I think that Jordanian men who are marrying foreign women feel a pressure to give them the kind of life that they're used to back home. Not necessarily because the woman has put this pressure on them, but they want to give everything to make her feel as comfortable and at home as possible. And she might not be used to something really fancy, and she might not be from a very wealthy background, but the things that are normal for her, of course, they're always going to be available in Amman because Jordan has got everything here. But they might be a little bit more expensive, they might be a little bit more inaccessible, they might be just for the upper class people or stuff like that. So there's this pressure to always give as much as you can, and give her the life that she wants, so she doesn't feel like she's sacrificing and things. But also those things might not always be that easy to do. The last one I want to come right back round to is language again, because if your wife doesn't speak Arabic, then you are a constant translator 24/7, and I know that that's exhausting. I didn't understand when I first came here, and I would get left out of conversations and I didn't know what the hell anyone was talking about ever, but I didn't realise at the time how tricky that is, to be switching between the two languages all the time and to be a constant translator. You know, it's another job to add where you're translating all the time. And it's not just, you know, when you've got visits or when you're going to somebody's house or you're inviting people to your home. It's with bureaucratic matters, it's with the TV, it's with news, it's with everything. You're just constantly translating and constantly flicking between the two languages. And as well, if you have children, then you want to try this, you know, system of you either only speak one language in the house, or you do the most common system, which is where the husband will speak in his mother tongue and the wife will speak in her mother tongue to the child. So that the child knows, like Adham knows, Baba speaks Arabic, Mama speaks English, like that. But that's really difficult as well, because then you're changing up your entire home life. And you're just constantly flicking between the two languages. I hope that this video further kind of shines more light on the kinds of issues that couples tend to have when they're marrying intercultural, interracial, whatever it is. And the next time that you have an argument or you're thinking to yourself, I gave up everything and I moved here for you, and you're just so unfair and all of these things, remember that there's another side to it. You know, he's having a hard time with it too. It's not just difficult on you, although, you know, let's be honest, it is most difficult on the woman, but it's also the man has challenges too. So you're in this together. Right. So yeah, I hope that was useful in some way, and if you have anything that you want to add to this video, then please tell me in the comments. I love your comments so much. And guys, I want to mention that my videos are being translated. So I got some amazing translations. These are community-based translations, so these are just people that wanted to translate my videos for no gain in any way, which is just like, this is so nice. I'm so grateful. I'm going to put their details in the description in case anyone needs some translation help. A big thank you to Dana Abu Hamdan, who did my last video, Things Not to Do in Jordan. She did a fantastic job of translating that. Thank you so much. And a big thank you to Shareef Qashou, I hope that I'm saying that right, who translated my video about things to know when you're moving to Jordan part 2. So thank you guys so much. As usual, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook when we're not on YouTube. And I look forward to hearing your comments below. Ma salama, shukran, bye.